It's Thursday, August 15th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we welcome John Flores, Vice President of Town Council, and we get our last updates from Beacon Hill until September from Senator Sear. Now for a look at municipal and legislative notes. Intern Olivia Morrow has a reminder to check your voter registration.
Olivia Morrow here with a PSA. Each year, the census is conducted in accordance with the Massachusetts general laws. By responding to the census, the town clerk's office are able to keep your voter's history and voting address up to date. However, voters are made inactive if we have not received their annual census or if they have moved and not notified us. We have a list at the town clerk's office of all the inactive voters. If you are an inactive voter, you will be asked to show ID and fill out a form before voting. If you are unsure or just want to check on your voter status, you can call the town clerk's office at 508-862-4044 or go to the website under Election Information and click on www.wheredoivote or come into the town hall office to find out more.
A jam-packed agenda tonight for Town Council. John Flores, Council Vice President, joins us in studio with some of the items and presentations. Back to Town Council this week. It's coming up Thursday today. And
yes.
With me, Vice President John Flores. You are ready with a full agenda. Summer's kind of almost over for Town Council, isn't it?
Yes, it is. This will be the last month that we only have one meeting. Right. Starting in September, we go back to 2 per month. And as usual, it's a chock-full agenda. When we originally have these planning meetings, it looks like it's going to be a light meeting, but it always turns into 10:30 or 11 o'clock, so in the evening when we finish. Right. So there'll be lots to report on tonight,
okay.
Thursday, and hopefully we'll have a good audience and we'll go from there.
Okay, so on everybody's mind, usually 24/7 at the town of Barnstable is always wastewater. We have another update coming on this agenda.
Right, we have Dan Santos, Director of the DPW, who will be giving us a comprehensive wastewater management plan update. It takes a look at all of the issues that we've been dealing with over the past year relative to ensuring that we have good wastewater plans for the town, as well as we have good drinking water quality for the town. And it's something that eventually we're going to have to submit to the state as part of not only the 208 comprehensive plan, but also some things that we want to eventually do with the Joint Base of Cape Cod and potentially use their wastewater management facilities as our own and take that whole facility over. So lots to talk about, lots to discuss, still a lot of work to do. This is a multi-year project. Looking at a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, and a 30-year plan. Sounds like 30 years way out, but you know it's going to be here before you know it. I mean, right. I won't be here. I don't know if you might be here, but I know I will probably moved on from right. Town Council. But for the next 10 years, I mean, we're part of it. Myself and the President, Jim Crocker, have been meeting on a regular basis with DPW and with Mark Ells as Town Manager to discuss it, to look at it carefully. And not being an engineer by profession, I've learned more about sewers and pipes and pumps than I ever thought I would need to or would want to. But it's a fascinating project, something that's long overdue. And we all go back to the issue that our number one commodity as a town that we have to provide to our public is good quality water. We have to figure out how to get rid of that water that is wastewater, if you will. And that's what this plan really is all about, so that citizens of the community can feel comfortable in the water that they are drinking, just as we have all of the various water departments in the town making sure that that's the case.
Right. And some of these updates to the plans are incremental. It may be new construction going into specific areas of the town for sewer. And then there is movement on the Joint Base Cape Cod
Yes.
being able to use their treatment facility should that need arise. So there's some new things into this update, I would imagine, for folks to hear.
Yeah, there is
evening.
actually. It's a combination of not only with what we're doing with the Joint Base of Cape Cod, which is still a work it's a working proposal, if you
right.
will. Unfortunately, we have Andy Clyburn as our deputy town manager, and
right.
obviously he knows the base probably better than anybody having been
right.
Affiliated with it for so long. And so he's been a great point person for us, making sure that we're talking to the right people. And there is a private entity that wants to do the same thing that we want to do. And so there is a little competition going on, but I believe the first right of refusal by law comes to the municipality, so we're hoping that we can move that forward. But ultimately, it's all about sewering, and in essence, taking the whole really western part of the town down 128, west of 149, even further, going more towards Centerville. Eventually, to take that, those folks that are on septic and to install sewer, and basically take that out to the Joint Base Cape Cod plant that is underutilized. And we have our own plant in Hyannis, but our problem is the effluent water that comes out after the fact. You know, we're running out of space, we're running out of room. So we have to think long term. We have to be conservative in terms of the monies that we spend, because this is a multi-billion-dollar project over a long period of time. But we have no alternative. Something that we have to do, and something that both President Jim Crocker, myself as Vice President, and Town Manager Mark Ells, DPW Director, and a whole staff of folks, coupled with our entire Town Council. We're fortunate that the Town Council views this as a #1 priority.
Right. And then it always seems that, you know, another priority, we talk wastewater, and hand in hand goes in housing.
Right.
Right? So something on the agenda for housing this week?
Yes, we have an update as part of a housing master plan, for lack of a better description, that will probably be presented by Elizabeth Jenkins as Director of Planning and Development. And it's really taking a look at long-term as well as short-term. You know, what are the housing-related issues that we have here in town? And you know, we had a meeting earlier today relative to talking about wastewater, as has already been mentioned. But without good wastewater, then you can't have subsequent housing. So the two go hand in hand. So this will be looking at how we basically meet the needs of folks who live in town currently, folks who might want to come to the town eventually, and with the two, have good water quality, coupled with affordable housing, coupled with middle income housing, as well as all types. So that'll be a presentation given in for discussion purposes that will be included in tonight's meeting.
Right. We've always heard the term lifestyle housing. It's not just a young professional that might need that apartment, but it's that person who's an empty nester wanting to get out of their house and into, you know, a condo, so they don't have to mow the lawn. That's my husband's goal.
It's my goal too, eventually.
Exactly. So there's this multitude of housing structures that the town needs to plan for. It's not just that single-family home out on the western edge of part of town with an acre lot.
Right. We're looking at apartment dwelling. We're looking at downtown dwelling. We're looking at workforce development dwelling. We're looking at accessory apartments. Those folks that perhaps might not want to go the condo route, maybe want to stay in the house, but yet can create a rental unit within their property to basically offset their costs. So really, it's a multi-planned approach, multifaceted approach in terms of what we need to do to address all of the various housing needs, as well as those folks who are on the lower end of the socioeconomic scale, who need support, who need help. And it's our responsibility as town leaders to make sure that happens. So that'll be, I think, a very interesting report coupled with the wastewater report. I think the two go hand in hand.
They really do. And let's see, you got a couple of more items. It seems like a full agenda already, but
it is. I mean, those two reports in themselves could probably take an hour.
Sure.
But we're also the typical voting appropriations that we have to deal with. A lot of roadway construction, sewer infrastructure that we're talking about that relates back to the reports that will be given at the early part of the meeting. We have a number of different appointments to various boards, some folks who are new, some folks who are renewals. Mostly advisory boards, and those are folks that give advice to the town manager, to the town council relative to a particular area. It might be infrastructure and energy, it might be Sandy Neck, it might be something else, and they're advisory in nature. And you know, we take their recommendations very seriously and take them under consideration when we are determining policy, if you will, for those particular areas that they're hopefully giving us assistance in making sure that we understand everything that's ongoing, because the town is so big, so vast. There's so many departments. No one person can stay on top of everything. Even when we have our weekly leadership meetings, myself, Jim Crocker, Mark Ells, and some of his staff directors, it's just amazing to see what goes on in this community. And you know, I'd put a pitch in even for the Citizens Leadership Academy. If anybody wants to know about what's going on in this town, take that course, because you will be overwhelmed with the size of who we are, what we're about, not only in terms of what happens on the land, but you know, we have so many miles of seacoast that a lot of other folks don't. I mean, it's really a unique geographical area that we live in, and you know, we have to make sure that we take the advice of the various committees, coupled with obviously making sure we're doing the right thing. And right now, the two right things obviously are wastewater, water quality, as well as housing. That's why those are going to be two reports that will be given at the early part of the meeting.
Right. And it seems to be that, when we look at the town of Barnstable being in the center of the Cape, what we call the hub of the Cape,
Sure.
a lot of the services and some of the higher end services, your hospitals and your retail quarters, they're all located in this town. But we also have to think, we have 45,000 residents.
Yes.
So, you look at the next largest town, it's a significant more than, say, Yarmouth or Falmouth.
I mean, let's be realistic. We're really not a town anymore. We're a city.
Right.
I mean, we're a town. We're really a city known as the town of Barnstable.
Right.
I think there's one other community that has the same form of government that we do. And that's Watertown, and they're also big enough, and they're
Right.
known as they're the town known as they're the city known as the town known as the city known as the town of Watertown, so that they still maintain a town manager form of government with a council. But no, we're so big and so vast in terms of the different types of populations that we serve, the different types of socioeconomic levels that we serve. We go from 45,000 people to 100,000 plus even during the summer. We have year-round residents, we have seasonal residents, we have elderly, we have vulnerable folks, we have everybody in between. So, we are a town that really is a city, if you will, and we have to make sure that we have everything in place to meet the needs of the community that we hopefully all live in and want to enjoy.
Right, and citizens, can really help by joining one of those boards or commissions or committees.
Yes,
It's one of those things where there's, I think the last thing that I saw was about almost 300 seats are available, not available right now, but
Right.
Seats for people to sit on these boards and commissions,
Right.
and it's incredibly important work.
You're absolutely right. Even, we're standing in the cable television studio today, and there's openings on the Cable Advisory Board.
Right.
And so we encourage any citizen who's perhaps listening to this particular show or listens to our town council meetings, we encourage on a regular basis folks to apply for those slots, become involved in the community. You get to meet a lot of great folks. You really learn a lot about the town itself, and realize how important these committees are in an advisory nature to the town leadership. It's an opportunity to serve, but I go back and make a pitch for that Citizens Leadership Academy to get a sense of what everybody is doing and to get a flavor of what's going on in this community. I encourage folks to always take that course in those classes that Sue French and others run.
Yep, those
on
will
an
start
annual
again
basis.
in January
Yeah,
of
they
this
start in
coming year.
January, and so get your oar in the water and get your application in.
Right.
They'll begin to advertise those probably in the next few months. And speaking of that, also we have a special appointment coming up tonight. We will be appointing the new town attorney, Karen Nober. She is an attorney of record with the state, has run a number of different state agencies, will be coming to us hopefully over the next month and a half. She'll begin. She'll be taking the place of Ruth Weil, who has announced her retirement. And for those of you that don't know Ruth, she is a terrific attorney.
She sure is.
She's 100 hours a week kind of person,
Right.
never really goes to bed without thinking about, what's on the docket relative to a town-related issue, and she will be sorely missed. So I don't know if Ruth was listening, but we love her dearly. She's done an absolutely terrific job, and she's a go-to person for so many different reasons and so many different needs.
She has,
she'll
and
be
she's
missed.
shepherded a lot of
Oh.
initiatives that the town has done throughout the years for
Yes.
different types of projects out there. Legal counsel to a town is paramount for their success.
Well, the entire legal team
Right.
that we have upstairs on the top floor, Charlie and David do a terrific job. Charlie's he's just a superb litigator. Dave knows local law and enforcement as well as anybody, and so collectively as a team, they've done an absolutely great job under the leadership of Ruth. So Ruth will be missed, but she's done her time. It's time for her to enjoy her retirement. So we wish her nothing but the best. So we will be making that appointment tonight at some point during the course of the meeting, and hopefully, I'm not sure if Karen will be there, but hopefully she is, so we can introduce her. If not, we will probably do that in the not too distant future.
Or she'll be right here behind the
She'll do a show
table
here.
with me
Yes,
at some point
exactly,
in time.
exactly.
Well, I'm not going to keep you too much longer. You might have to go home, have a nap before this long meeting.
It's going to be a long meeting tonight. It looks like it looks like it was going to be brief, but after this morning's meeting, I think it's going to be extensive. So yeah, we're looking forward to it, and hopefully folks will watch it, and if not, attend it. Well, it's a full-packed agenda as usual.
Excellent. Thanks so much, John.
Paula, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
Senator Julian Cyr joins us in studio for a State House update, a signed budget, funds for the Cape and Islands, and a new task force for drinking water quality. Well, the session has ended on Beacon Hill, and big news from Julian Cyr. Welcome.
Paula, good to be with you. Happy August.
Happy August. This is just crazy that the summer is just blowing really quick, but we all know that real summer for Cape Codders begins in September anyways.
It does. It does. I can't wait. But this has been a summer for the record books already, and we're just in August. And you know, certainly with the extreme weather we've had here in Barnstable, across Barnstable, and Yarmouth, Dennis, Harwich, and Chatham, the 3 tornadoes we had. You know, when I got into this business, you know, you're always worried about you know, hurricanes and nor'easters. We're not used to tornadoes here, and the devastation was really severe. I mean, you know, something that I haven't, you know, in the 2 square miles in Harwich and the pockets of in Osterville and Hyannis, South Yarmouth, Dennis, you know, looks very much like a hurricane. What was remarkable is how quickly we bounced back. You know, when I saw this devastation and was out there, and the governor came down, and we had Senator Markey and a whole host of folks, you know, didn't expect that, you know, this happened on a Tuesday, that it would be back to full power, you know, by Friday morning. You know, so a real tremendous response. I think the piece that I continue to be concerned about is the lost business. You know, small businesses, especially restaurants, folks in food service, you know, you lost power for a few days. That means your walk-in, you know, your walk-in failed. You know, you probably lost a lot of product that you had in inventory. So those losses plus the closed business. So thrilled, you know, we've been working with hand in glove with the administration, with the whole delegation to make sure we respond. The Mass Capital Growth Corporation actually has issued $1 million in a loan program. 2 small businesses. We'll have more information on my website about that. You know, but really kind of impressed how we were able to really sort of rally and get open back for business. But I think this does show, we really need to get serious about climate resiliency. Climate disruption is here. Every Cape Codder knows that. You live that. And so I'm really eager, I think, this fall when we come back from the session to take up some climate resiliency legislation. The House has taken action. I'd like to see the Senate taking action. The House did $1 billion over 10 years. I'd like to see us do $2 billion over 10 years. You know, when you open up, I was reading the New York Times, and when Barnstable is listed as the top 10, you know, locations in the country for costs related to climate preparedness and resiliency and the effects of climate disruption, you know, that's big. So we've got lots of work to do, but really relieved that there were no serious injuries with the tornadoes. You know, our municipalities and our first responders and DPW workers and National Guard and you know, the utility and many others, you know, neighbors just kind of getting out the chainsaw and helping to clear roads was pretty remarkable. But glad we're back in business.
Back in business, and you know, having been through Hurricane Bob in '91, you know,
Me too.
Looking at that devastation, you know, I had visions of a week or 2 without power in certain areas of the Cape, and you know, good to see Eversource with their tree trimming has worked a little bit. It wasn't as many power lines, just in that small area there, and then obviously we're Cape Cod strong.
Yeah, and Eversource had over 700 utility crews on the ground.
Yes.
Which is remarkable, but you know, I remember, Bob, we were out of power in Truro for 10 days.
Yeah.
But of course, I was a little kid, so at the time I thought all the trees down were fun. But much to the chagrin of my poor parents, we're trying to run a restaurant and, you know, no water and all that stuff. But glad everyone's all right, and we are Cape Cod strong.
Excellent. And the budget seemed to have passed and gotten through all of its
all the hurdles. It's signed into law, and there were some pretty big accomplishments in this budget. I wasn't happy that it was late. This is a bad habit we've gotten into beyond Beacon Hill. But what's in the budget is really powerful, and I was really proud. All total in the budget, I was able to deliver $7.37 million in resources, both statewide and here on the Cape. $750,000 of that is here on Cape Cod. For instance, $45,000 to the Barnstable Police Department to continue the work that the Community Impact Unit is doing around addressing the homeless population here, especially those really chronically homeless folks that we can't get into services. We first did the program last year, and they helped about 40 homeless individuals. 20 of those individuals, so about half, actually got connected into services, which is kind of a big deal.
Right.
So proud of that. There's a lot more in there. And then more broadly, some pretty important statewide initiatives, mostly focused on the opioid epidemic, and also focused on mental health. And so with the opioid epidemic, I filed an amendment which was adopted in the Senate. We got it for the final budget. It's $5 million in new dollars, all for harm reduction strategies, right? So everything we can do to help keep people alive and keep people safe. Those are resources that we're going to see here in Hyannis. We'll see it across the Cape. But that's really something I think when we look at, the more we learn about, the more we grapple with this epidemic, keeping people alive and safe is what we need to do. And so, access to Narcan, syringe access, keeping people safe. These are pretty important pieces. Looking at fentanyl test strips and fentanyl testing. So if you're looking at the drug supply, unfortunately, more and more fentanyl's in everything, which is terrifying.
Right.
And so this is a pretty big effort from the state, and something I'm really proud to have been a part of. And then also filed $1 million to increase funding to the Department of Mental Health around their housing voucher program. And with this $1 million addition, they're basically going to eliminate their wait list for housing. So 80 people are going to get housing. These are some of the most vulnerable, mentally ill, challenged folks in the state. So really proud to have been part of that, and lots of good things in this budget. And so just glad it's done, and glad it's signed into law, and looking forward to seeing those dollars get to work in our community.
Right. So you talk about, there's lots of things in that budget, but there's one reoccurring theme throughout Cape Cod, which is water quality.
Yep.
Whether it's nitrogen loading in our embayments or emerging contaminants of concern. What's going on with that right now?
So there's a few pieces. One is implementation of the Cape Anons Water Protection Fund. This was landmark legislation that we passed last session. The entire delegation got behind this, creating a funding mechanism to implement what's called the 208 plan. So we got a $4 billion wastewater problem on Cape Cod, and through this program, the state's going to pitch in $1 billion, and we're funding that through occupancy, both on short-term rentals and also on traditional occupancy. The other piece we got to look at is around drinking water, and folks here in Barnstable and Hyannis specifically know a lot about contaminants and contaminants of concern, one of those being PFAS and PFOAs. These are the emerging contaminants associated with actually a whole host of consumer products. Actually, a lot of adhesives that you use in your home actually have PFAS in them.
Teflon,
Yep.
wrappers for your hamburger.
Yep. Also, firefighting foam.
Right.
And so as folks know, here in Hyannis, this has been a huge concern. I filed a bill along with my colleague, Representative Kate Hogan, who represents Stowe, so like a north central community of the state, who's also struggling with PFAS, to create a task force to move swiftly to get the state to really get our handle on this. What communities are impacted? What's the cost? How do we begin to remediate this? The town of Barnstable and the Hyannis Water District has spent, millions and going on tens of millions on this problem. And so I really think the state should be doing its part. So proud to file the bill, hoping to see it advance out of committee and something we can get to work on soon so the task force can be convened, we can get some recommendations and move forward on this issue. But water is when you live on a peninsula that's essentially a sand deposit from glaciers,
Right.
Water's key to how we make our lives here, to how we make our living here, and making sure our drinking water is safe and is a quality water supply is really critical.
Really is. So you're back on terra firma here on Cape Cod for a month or so?
The goal is I hopefully don't have to go over the bridge, at least for a month, because we're on
Right.
recess. So it's a beautiful time to be here, and just looking forward to, like all Cape Codders, right? Enjoying it, trying to get to the beach, avoiding the traffic,
Right.
and looking forward to when summer really starts in September.
Excellent. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Paula. Always a pleasure.
Take care. Up next, things to do, places to go, and people to meet. The 49th Annual Craft Fest Cotuit, sponsored by the Cotuit Federated Church, is this Saturday, August 17th, from 10 to 4 p.m. More than 120 artisans from Cape Cod and New England display their traditional and contemporary creations on the village green. All who attend enjoy legendary lobster rolls, clam chowder, and other delicious food, musical entertainment, and children's activities, free admission, parking, and shuttle service. Reminder, Town Council this evening, 7 p.m., second floor hearing room, Town Hall. Comments, suggestions, accolades, connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.